Greetings, friends and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Fire and Ice, the official podcast of your Coachella Valley Firebirds of the American Hockey League. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California. A mere Chris Drieger double pad slide away from the Firebirds' home ice of Acrisure Arena. I'm your host, Judd Spicer. Along with this bi-monthly endeavor, not sure I even mentioned that on the most recent episode. It's now a bi-monthly endeavor, by the way. Last year we did it once a month. This year, doing it twice a month. Along with this, also have the pleasure and privilege as serving as your Firebirds insider for a second consecutive season. Those articles you can find online at cvfirebirds.com. cvfirebirds.com, your home for all things Coachella Valley Firebirds, including, but certainly not limited to, team, roster, schedule, merchandise, ticketing information. As for those tickets, probably also want to jump on that CV Firebirds app, that phone app. I'm a technical knucklehead. Even I figured it out. Great way to get tickets and parking for all things CV Firebirds at Acrisure Arena and everything else going on at Acrisure Arena. And heck, there's a lot. It's a long list. All manner of concerts, events, other sporting endeavors. Heck, we got the Lakers and the Suns preseason this week. I'm actually going to be headed over to that myself. Reports suggesting LeBron James surely going to appear at Acrisure Arena. But that's another sport. It's another show for another time. As for this show, as for this endeavor, big props to the presenting sponsor, Desert Willow Golf Resort. You can make your tee times online for the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively. Also, the awesome and on-site Palma Desert Golf Academy. Brush up on your swing on-site. Great facility over there led by Paul Busey. I know the dudes at Desert Willow, they love the Firebirds. Season ticket holders last year, season ticket holders again this year. And it's a great putt-to-puck segue. A mere 3.5 miles away is Desert Willow Golf Resort from Acrisure Arena. So on those Firebirds game days, those home game days, which we'll get to here shortly, what an awesome desert day. You tee up at Desert Willow, slide on over Cook Street, pop on Varner, and there you go. Just a few minutes' time. You go from one of the premier municipal golf facilities in all of Southern California to watching some exceptional pro hockey at Acrisure Arena. Friends, joining me on this sophomore episode of this season, we got a newcomer to the flock. Veteran Devin Shore is my guest. Haven't had opportunity to meet nor speak with Devin yet in this young season. Look forward to doing so in this episode of Fire and Ice. Stay tuned. Going to get to that chat with Devin shortly. In the meantime, in the interim, very briefly, because not a lot has happened yet, we're getting to the Firebirds freeze frame segment of the episode, and it's a small sample size. Basically the smallest sample size because they played one game, which, of course, they lost. Nonetheless, last season, friends, more than kind of an unusual start to the season. Of course, the Firebirds played their first 22 games away from the home ice while Acrisure Arena was getting finished up. This year, kind of weird. We had the home opener, spooky, Friday the 13th, and now just one game in a 12-day span. Going to get to that schedule shortly, but just one game before the Birds return back to the barn. That taking place on Wednesday, October 25th. Again, going to get to that schedule in just a moment. Kind of a funky start to the season. We had the first preseason game, which I had the pleasure of covering for the Desert Sun newspaper. Did not ultimately cover that game because there was no game. There was an area power outage from IID. That game was ultimately canceled. A couple days later, Birds did get on the ice for what proved to be their lone game of the preseason. That was a loss. Not that the results really matter in preseason, especially if there's one game. Then, of course, the home opener debut at the aforementioned spooky Friday the 13th against Bakersfield. And it was a little sloppy. It was a little choppy. I think the players admitted as much. I know for certain that in the post-game press conference, Head coach Dan Biles said verbatim as much, and that's understandable. We've got some new guys, yes, many returning players. But we've got some new guys as well. We've got some new lines, and not a lot of opportunity to skate together before they jump right into real game competition. Firebirds got down 0-2 in that game, battled back to tie it up before ultimately losing at 3-2. Goals coming compliments of newcomer Cale Fleury, and Cole Lynn scored the second goal. Fine game between the pipes for Chris Drieger, by the way, stopping 25 of Bakersfield's 28 shots. Let's get to that unusual kind of aberrant schedule to get this second season of Firebirds hockey underway. That second game taking place this Saturday, October 21st. That is on the road versus Tucson. Then the Birds do come back to play at Acrisure Arena on Wednesday, October 25th. That is at home versus our I-10 rival, Ontario. $5 beer night, by the way. A couple more days off, then back on the road, heading yonder Northern California for a double dip Saturday the 28th and Sunday the 29th against San Jose. Got a travel day coming back to the desert. Rounded out, more spookiness, friends. Halloween, Tuesday, October 31st. That is the Dia de los Muertos theme night, by the way, playing Abbotsford. That wraps it up for the kind of slight October schedule before the year really gets cooking with a lot of games to be played in November. We'll get to that in the next episode of Fire and Ice. As for this episode, let's get to the chat with Firebirds forward Devin Shore. All right, Firebirds friends, as prefaced, great guest on this episode of the Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. He is an Ontario native, played his college hockey as a Maine Black Bear, now in his 10th year of professional hockey. At the end of August, actually it was the final day of August, he signed his one-year, two-way deal with the Seattle Kraken. We welcome him now to Coachella Valley and Coachella Valley Firebirds. Forward Devin Shore. Devin, welcome to the Valley, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, man. Lots to cover as a fresh face to our Firebirds flock. Before we get that, though, according to the adroit research team at the Fire and Ice podcast, got to dig a little bit back into the history of Devin Shore, back into the annals of time. Here's one thing that I read about you, Devin. Let me know if I got this right. Growing up, your favorite player, not a guy that you were watching, but your hockey hero was Maurice Rocket Richard. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate, and it's kind of a two-parter because obviously you have like the hockey heroes that you watch on a nightly basis, but when I was I think 3 years old, I was up at my cottage with my grandmother. She was babysitting me. My parents were out of town, and it was time for bed, and so she said, "Go to the bookshelf and grab a book." And I might even have been 2 or 2.5, so I couldn't read. So I saw a book with a card, like a drawing of a hockey player on it, and it happened to be a book called "The Value of Tenacity: The Story of Maurice Richard." And I think I made her read that before bed, 2 or 3 times. And it's not a short book; like it's a children's storybook, but I think we were up the way my grandma tells the story till about 3 a.m. So from then on, he was kind of my hockey hero. I know he passed away in 2000, so obviously never got to see him play. But my hockey hero watching would probably be either Matt Sundin as a young boy and then Sidney Crosby. But the first one was Maurice Richard.
Well, as far as those heroes and a lot of people's current hockey heroes, a gentleman that actually a couple of them that you've had opportunity to play alongside. We'll get to that in a moment. Bit of a fast forward to your time in college as a Maine Black Bear, where you had an outstanding 3-year NCAA career, not just on the ice, Devin, but also with the books, all manner of academic accolades. I believe you were studying finance while you were at Maine. Have those lessons come to light? Have you been able, I should say, to make those applicable and use those in your pro hockey career?
Yeah, I think so. I think taking finance, like it's just kind of the base financial literacy. I think as you get older and become a pro and start making some money, I think it's important to you don't have to be finance savant by any means, but just to have that base knowledge and knowing the general terms and the financial literacy, I think has helped me in just learning how money works and how the business end of thing works. I guess it can't help, but yeah, I know my parents instilled from an early age that school was just as probably more important than hockey, and so yeah, I worked hard at school, and I think it's been good for me.
Yeah, one of your teammates, your current teammates, had a not dissimilar conversation last year with John Hayden. He attended Yale, so kind of a similar crossover at brains and brawn and books. You got the 3 years under the belt at Maine. Were you ever able to go back, or do you want to go back and finish that degree?
I got it. I finished my
Oh,
degree. I think so. I had the 3 years under my belt, and then I probably had about 8 total classes left. And it took me probably like I would take some classes in the summer online, and then my first year pro, I blew my shoulder out in December and was done for the year. Got surgery, so I took on a couple other classes then, just while I was doing my rehab. And yeah, so I think I was in Anaheim at the time, which would have been, I want to say, fall of 2019. I finished it, so it took me about 3.5 years to get the last year's worth of credits done, but I got it done, yeah, and I'm very proud of it.
let's get to some of the on the ice stuff. An interesting conversation here. I mean, of all the players, Devin, that I talked to last year, your resume is different, really different from anybody that has been on the Firebirds in our short history. A lot of the guys that played with us last year had such great success, obviously, as the Western Conference champions. A lot of the same players are back this year. They had cups of coffee in the NHL. You are a veteran of 422 National Hockey League games and playing on a lot of really good teams and playing alongside a lot of terrific players along the way. Four teams, the last 3 years, 134 of those games for Edmonton. Coupled with that, I mean, a pretty slight American Hockey League resume, 48 total games with 37 points, I should add, in those games. As for the CV and the NHL, an impressive 50 goals to match with 85 assists in those 422 games. Describe in your words the arc of your career thus far.
Yeah, it's been a journey and a fun journey at that. I've been, as you said, I've been fortunate enough to play in some really cool cities and on some good teams, and a large majority of that in the best league in the world. And I don't take that for granted. It's been a great ride. And for a player of my stature, that sometimes means, a little bit up and down, and that's it's all good, because I love the game, and even sometimes when you're down, you get to play a bigger role. I know it's kind of selfish to say that, but it's also true, and it's fun. So you try to take the journey and enjoy each step, and being here. Like, everyone has dreams of being in the NHL, but I know for a fact, if you're in the American League, this is where you want to be, and that's what everyone said. And we got a taste of that in our home opener. I thought the fans were great. It's too bad we couldn't get the win for them, but yeah, it's been good. It's a hell of a league, the American Hockey League. A lot of really good players, and it's a fun place to play. So, looking forward to contributing in any way I can, and trying to lead these young guys if they got any questions about anything, and just kind of help them along the way in their careers. But I take a lot of pride in that too.
As far as sticking with your own career, you've been a popular player wherever you've gone. You mentioned the word, I believe it was tenacious in regard to Maurice Richard. Correct me if I'm misremembering that, but
No, no, you're
uh,
right.
okay. You've shown a lot of grit. You've shown a lot of hustle. You've had some points, but yeah, you've been a popular player at all your stops. What I guess is different about you and your game today than it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago? How are you different? How have you grown?
I think it's about adapting. When I came into the NHL, um, I was probably more of an offensive player. I was put in an offensive role. A lot of that in both of these leagues, you're kind of you always stay true to your game, but depending on the role you're put in, it's on you to embrace that. So when I first came in, I was um, grateful and lucky enough to be put in more of an offensive role, and with that comes some points and what have you. And then the biggest thing I found as it's gone along here is just adapting, because the game has gotten so much faster. In my short, when I think I've been in the NHL, or I was in the NHL for 7 years, and even in those 7 years, you really notice how much it's changed as far as the skill and the speed. Um, I don't want to say it felt easier when I was younger, because that's the wrong word, but just guys are so fast now, and the gaps of the defensemen are so tight. So the biggest thing for me has just been adaptability, and that looks a little different sometimes. Sometimes you have a smaller role in a team, more defensive role. You're more of a checker and whatnot, but just yeah, I've played in kind of any role you can think of for a forward. I've played it at the NHL level, and that means different stats and different things, but every role is important, and I've just tried to embrace every stop I've had along the way.
One thing that you do not seem to have necessarily embraced or aren't married to is a similar number. You hear about that in some sports. Oh, dude, I want my same number. I'll give you X amount of dollars or a watch or something like that. You've had a lot of different numbers, and I mentioned as much because when Friday's home opener, last Friday's home opener, myself and the other media knuckleheads were assessing the new faces and some of the new lines, and we're like, oh, Devin Shore, 94. Because, like I said, we're knuckleheads, so that gives us an easy way, at least from the outset, to remember that. But you've had all manner of different numbers. Is 94? Did you choose that because that's the year you were born, or is there any other reason?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up. So when I first got to Dallas, they just gave me 17, and I liked 17. I got traded to Anaheim, and Ryan Kessler was using 17, and he's the ultimate veteran. So you change your number, you pick a new one. So I picked 29 there. Then I got traded to Columbus, and it got time to pick a number. And my grandma always thought it would be cool to go with 74 because it rhymes both ways. 7 rhymes with Devin, and 4 rhymes with Shore. So I indulged my grandmother there. Then I got to Edmonton, and I'm like, okay, I've been on 3 teams, 3 different numbers. So like now this is just going to be my thing. Like I'm just going to have a new number on each team I play. And so I went 14 in Edmonton, and then we traded for Matthias Ekholm, who is far much more of a veteran than I am. So I actually had 2 numbers with the Oilers. I switched to 19. And then so finally here in Seattle, to come back full circle, I wore 94, sorry, from the age of 8 up until university. 94 was my number because of my birth year. And I was afraid to ask for 94 when I was younger, because if it's a high number, in the 90s, you don't want to be step on toes and be that guy as a young guy. But I feel like I'm 29 now, and I just don't care about that anymore. So I'm going to go back to my number. So that's the story of the numbers. But yeah, when I went to Columbus, I think I made the decision that every new team I'll be on, I'll choose a new number just for fun.
Here's another number to throw at you, 3. That's how many Hart trophies, awards are on the mantle of your recent and former teammate, Connor McDavid, of the last 3 years. Hey, man, you play with a lot of great players. You referenced a few of them. Jamie Benn, obviously, you played with him in Dallas. Connor McDavid, you ever play with anybody quite like that guy? Ever seen anybody quite like that guy?
Nope. And it's not close. It's not close. He's incredible. In my opinion, the best hockey player ever. The way I always try to explain it is because the game evolves, right? The game, as I alluded to earlier, the game gets faster and better. I think it's fair to say that Wayne Gretzky's the greatest NHLer ever. Those numbers are untouchable. You can't dispute those numbers. He's the greatest NHLer ever. But hockey is a sport, not a league, and it evolves. So in my opinion, Connor McDavid's the greatest hockey player ever. And will he catch Gretzky's numbers? It's going to be tough, but what a treat it was to play with him, and even more so, I'm lucky enough to say I got very close with him. I consider him a good friend, and along with all the big dogs on that team, him, Leon Draisaitl, Nuge, Hyman, they became my best buds on the team. I kind of felt sometimes we go out to dinner, and Darnell Nurse there too, and it's all the big boys and then me. So they let me stick around maybe because they like my company. But from a hockey standpoint, definitely felt out of place with those guys. But they're the best guys, and a true honor to play with them.
Yeah, those three Hart trophies. He gets one more. He's tied for third all time already. The guy's just 26 years old, Connor McDavid. Friends, you're tuning into the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. My guest is Firebirds' new forward, Devin Shore. Devin, you signed, I said, on August 31st with the Kraken, the 1-year, two-way deal. Why was that a good fit for you? And did you consider the Coachella Valley option when you signed that contract?
Definitely. To be quite honest, it was tough sledding to be, a depth piece free agent this summer. There wasn't a lot going around. So if I'm being completely honest, there were teams calling, but Seattle was the first firm offer. And on August 31st, I don't think you're in any position to turn down a firm offer. But without question, thinking about where I am in my career and kind of my stock or whatever you want to call it, to know that if you're down, it's Coachella Valley, made it much easier to pull the trigger there. And yeah, I'm really impressed with the organization top to bottom. So I know we're still in the early stages, but so far so good.
Last year, did you start hearing some buzz about what was going on here in our fair desert?
I did, yeah. Like I would follow like not religiously, but especially like deep into the playoffs, you hear about it, and I definitely followed the scores like during the final series, and it was more in the summer talking to players and talking to teams where you get the real sense of how special it was down here. And yeah, and it's as advertised. Like, what a fun place to play. Great atmosphere, really cool rink. You're living in Coachella Valley, which is gorgeous. Yeah, so it's been great.
Family man, Devin? Married,
I am.
kids?
Yep. I'm married.
Okay.
We got married in COVID, so I'm probably one of the few hockey players whose anniversary is in the fall. But we got married during COVID on Halloween. So this October 31st will be my third wedding anniversary, and we have a little boy named Jamie who will be 2 in February. So he's 20 months now.
You got married on Halloween, you said?
We got married on Halloween. Yeah,
Did you
it was
dress
the only
up?
Saturday. We just did a 10-person wedding up in Ontario in COVID, and it was the only Saturday made available, and we had to fly my wife's parents out from Halifax, Nova Scotia. So it seemed to be the only Saturday that made sense, and just happened to be on Halloween. So it'll be easy. I won't forget my anniversary at least.
Did you dress up like Dracula or something?
We dressed up as husband and wife. Yeah, that's what we say. That's our original Halloween costume. I wore the suit, and she wore the beautiful white dress.
Married man. He's got a kid, and it's interesting whether from a fan perspective or a media perspective, we sometimes lose sight when we talk about players. Like just moving dudes around the chessboard. Oh, he plays here. This guy side here. And sometimes they forget. These are real people. These are guys with families and homes. And I don't. I did talk about this with several players last year about even some of the coaches as well. How do you handle the family situation? What do you do? Is your family going to be joining you out here in the desert this year?
Yep, they're coming down, and yeah, and I appreciate that. That's a really good point. It is a business, and it's what you sign up for. It's this being a professional hockey player, without question, will be the best job any of us will ever have. But it is very tough at times. It's a dog eat dog world. There's a lot of stress that comes involved with it, and sometimes folks can lose sight of the fact that like you just said, that you are a human being, and it's beyond what just goes on the ice. And it's not just your performance, but it's all the logistical stuff. It's moving down, it's moving from city to city, and it does take a toll on you. And it's important to, first of all, be appreciative of how lucky you are to have those folks in your corner. And also, from what I've seen and from what I've heard about Coachella Valley, is the support seems pretty unconditional and unwavering, which is awesome. It definitely makes a difference, when the fans got your back no matter what. But like I said, you know what you sign up for, and the most important thing is the people you have in your corner and just staying true to yourself. But yeah, it's a heck of a business.
Well, speaking for some of your playing colleagues, I feel safe doing that, and some of your Firebird predecessors from last year. I think the dudes and their families readily enjoyed living one of the best places in the world for a 7, 8 month stretch. Obviously, the season went really long last year, so they were out here for a while. But I know that the fellas acclimated well, made their way around the desert. They played a lot of golf. I don't know, you play any golf?
I do play golf. I love golf. Yeah,
Okay.
not as much now, like I said, with the little man around, but that's an easy sacrifice to make. There are definitely more important things, but the golf course is definitely my happy place.
Couple more for you today. Speaking with Devin Shore here on the Fire and Ice podcast. Devin, the Kraken kind of was curious, interesting. They started their season with their roster at 22 of 23 players. They left a slot open. Fortunately for them, they had an injury to Tanev in recent days, so now I think they have 2 slots open. I don't know, man. Do you pay attention to that kind of roster stuff, or do you just do your thing?
I think it's human nature to notice it, but you really, and especially at this point in my career, you really just focus on what you got going on that day and what you can control. And I know it's cliche, and I know at times it's much easier said than done, but that really is the recipe for both your mental health and a good career, the long career that all of us players hope for. There is a lot of stuff out of your control. There's decisions being made, and the only thing you can do is just show up each day and work hard, try to get better, be a good teammate, and then kind of let the chips fall as they may. So, like I said, yeah, you notice it for sure, and it's the dream of everyone to be in the NHL. But as long as it doesn't affect your day-to-day process, you're good.
As far as being a good teammate, the fourth line that the Firebirds sported in the home opener was all of a cumulative 61 years of age on the front line. Two 20-year-olds and a 21-year-old. Spoke with Dan Bilesman a little bit in the post-game presser after that Friday game. But all three really great-looking prospects. Morrison, Melanson, and Ryan. You have to still getting to know the roster a little bit.
Yeah.
Winterton.
Yeah,
Winterton. Yeah. Is it incumbent upon you as a veteran, the guy that's played well over 400 National Hockey League games, to help these guys along as they get deeper into pro hockey?
Absolutely. Yeah. You take pride in it, because I remember when I was that age, both in the American League and the NHL, and there was guys there for me that I felt comfortable going up to and asking questions, and they made me feel part of a team and made you feel comfortable. And that's so, like, when you feel comfortable and you feel valued and you feel important, you're going to play better. So there was guys like that for me when I was coming up in Dallas. And so I take pride in trying to be that for these guys. And they're all great players. We got a lot of really good young players, and I thought they played well in the first night. So part of it's making sure you're not, not too much, right? Like, just at the end of the day, it's the same game you've been playing since you were 4 years old. So don't change too much. Don't change the way what got you there, but just helping them along the way. If they have any questions, I'm all ears. And if there's something I think that can help them, then definitely I'll do my best to help guide them. Because, as I said, there were people doing that for me, and it's kind of a circle of life almost.
One more for you today, Devin. Not so much a question as a comment. Not sure if you're aware, the third anniversary, it's the Abbotsford anniversary. You guys do have a game against Abbotsford on Halloween. I don't know if that's how your better half wants to acknowledge that anniversary. Maybe a victory, you score a goal, and then a nice dinner after on El Paseo. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, that would be great. Like, yep. Like, just a win, and then hopefully, honestly, maybe a good costume party. That'd be great. Yeah.
Even better. Well, it is Dia de los Muertos theme night, rather, at Acrisure Arena that evening. So I trust we'll see some costumes, just as we'll see you down in number 94 at the Acrisure Arena barn. Devin Shore, welcome to the Coachella Valley. Welcome to the Firebirds. Look forward to watching you play this year. Thank you for your time, my man.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it as well.
All right, folks. It's going to wrap it up for this October 19, 2023 episode of the Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Thank you so much for your time, your interest, your ears, your ongoing support of this endeavor. Additional thanks go to this episode's guest, Firebirds forward, Devin Shore. Great to have him amongst the flock this season. Gentle reminder for all things Coachella Valley at Firebirds Hockey. You're going to want to go online, click it over to cvfirebirds.com. You can find everything from team, roster, scheduling, ticketing, merchandise information. I might also suggest downloading that CV Firebirds app on your cellular phone. As per the proud presenting sponsor of this program, Desert Willow Golf Resort, right here in sunny Palm Desert, California. Get your tee times online today for the Mountain View and Firecliff courses, respectively. 36 excellent holes in Palm Desert, just 3.5 miles away from the Birds' home ice of Acrisure Arena. You can do that online at desertwillow.com. Look forward to seeing you soon at the Acrisure Arena Barn, friends. And remember, as always, one valley, one team, rising together.